Welcome back to my animal education series. Today I'm here with Katie at the Nashville Zoo. Hello.
Hi.
And who do we have here?
This is one of our young hatchling, oh my goodness, Caiman lizards. I'm sorry about that. This girl, she actually hatched in July, so she's just a few months old.
So how many hatchlings do you have here at the Nashville Zoo?
Currently we have 14.
So are these Caiman lizards part of the SSP program?
They are, yes. Their parents, one of the females, is one of the ones that we hatched here at the Nashville Zoo, and then the male, who is the father to these guys, actually came from the Bronx Zoo. So he was recommended to breed with 3 of our females, and so we were able to bring him here, and we were very successful. We had quite a bit of a good hatchling. So.
And I love these lizards because one, the coloration is amazing. How they're usually reddish, kind of orange on the head, and then green all down the body. I just think that's super cool. And then how they are also like semi-aquatic and like semi-arboreal, how they go back and forth.
Exactly.
And please correct me if I'm wrong, but are they related to the tegu?
They are. They look a lot like a tegu as well, with their heavy bodies. And then they get their tail more so from their cousins. Just getting a little angry. From their cousins, the Caiman, where they get their names.
So does the coloration help them at all in the wild?
It does, and especially as hatchlings being brighter, they can camouflage more in those leaves and in the tree branches and everything. And then also in the water, they'll kind of hang out close to the rocks where there's some algae growth and stuff on the rocks. Oh, goodness.
It just kind of let out like a little hiss.
Yes.
And you said this is like the nicer group here.
Yes, these are, yeah. I call them a nest of hornets. If you were to go anywhere near them, they get really kind of agitated, and they'll do their defense like they would in the wild. They'll really quickly just dart away. So when they're hanging out on the tree branches, they have a really good escape. They can just dart off and go into the water away from any predators.
So I didn't mention it yet, but where are these Caiman lizards from?
They're actually from around the Amazon basin area. Here at the Nashville Zoo, we have a really nice Amazon River exhibit, and so they kind of hang out in the tree branches above the water there, and then they can get into the water if they need to run away from us being their biggest kind of fear.
Oh, sorry.
My goodness, sorry, I shouldn't touch it now. We'll just leave her alone.
So what do these lizards eat in the wild?
In the wild, they like to eat snails, crayfish, clams, that kind of thing they can catch out of the water. That's one of their favorite snacks. And here at the zoo, we actually feed them a pretty steady diet of rat pinks, so baby rats, and other fishes, so shrimp, smelled sardines, that kind of thing.
So are they fully carnivorous, or will they eat some vegetation here and there?
Most of the time, just carnivorous. They're going to get a lot of their veggies from the stomach of the other things that they're eating. So from the rat pinks and then the shrimp and all that stuff.
So what kind of animals would try to eat a Caiman lizard?
Probably the biggest one that I can think of would be a Caiman. Just any other big lizard that would be around. I'm sure then other little rodents or mammals, that could catch them out of the water could eat them too. More than anything, little hatchlings like this. They're so much more vulnerable than the adults.
As we saw out in the main enclosure, they're a pretty sizable lizard.
Yes.
So how big do they get as adults?
Usually females probably close to about 4 feet long. I know we have a male that's almost, if I held him standing up, I'm about 5'5". He's almost as tall as I am. So he's closer to 5 feet.
So it's not a whole lot of animals that try to eat that.
No, exactly. Something's got to be a lot bigger than that. And a lot meaner, because they're actually pretty testy if they're kind of feeling picked upon, I guess to say.
So with the enclosure out there, and it's about like 50-50 between land and water, like how much time do they spend like in the water compared to the land or up in the trees?
A lot more so in the trees. If I put a number on it, 80% of the time in the trees and then 20% of the time in the water, because they are going to go into the water and get a food item in the wild, and then come up and kind of sit up out of the water to eat that food item. And then also, they're kind of big and bulky and lazy, so they like to sit and bask in the trees and get warm. And then darting into the water if they feel threatened in any way.
And especially taking up their food into the trees probably gets them away from caimans or other like predatory fish that would try to steal their food.
Exactly, yes, because anything else will smell that on them and then try to either get the food from them or them.
So what adaptations do they have for swimming? Because if you look at their feet, they're not super webbed.
Right.
And their tail isn't super flat either.
It is the tail, more so kind of near the bottom. Down here, they have really good muscles in the top part up here. And it's flattened enough to where they use their whole body and their whole tail and everything to kind of work their way through the water. Excuse me. We'll go back over here again.
So what is one of your favorite things about the Caiman lizard?
I think, for me, it's the way that they have this specialized jaw and specialized teeth to eat apple snails. And when I first started working with these guys, if I were to feed them an apple snail, if I wanted to break one, I would have to take a hammer and like wail on it. And they can take an apple snail, and they have this specialized molars in the back of their jaw where they can just barely kind of crunch down on really softly, and it just breaks it just perfectly, and they get all of the meat out of the snail. So I just think it's really neat. Their specialized
the perfect
jaws.
adaptation.
Yes, the perfect food adaptation. Yeah.
So there's also a lot of other fish and turtles in the enclosures out there as well, and the big ones. So how do they interact with the other fish and animals?
I think they do just fine. For ours, they have pretty much been in there since they hatched. All the ones out there are captive, hatched and raised here at Nashville Zoo, and they'll swim with them. I don't think any of the fish ever try to pick on them. So.
For the most part, it looks like they just kind of all ignore each other and do their own thing.
Exactly. Yep. They have their own spaces. They have their own routines. They have their own ideas of where they need to be. So.
And are these a social species of lizard? Because there are like 2 in each enclosure, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, we have in the middle the big one that has two sections. There are 4 actually in there.
Really?
It's 2 females and two males. When they first go together, they kind of test each other's who's going to be boss and who's going to actually play along nice. And then they'll in the mornings we'll come in and they'll be laying on top of each other and just kind of resting and basking together. So yeah, they get along pretty well. Where you going, kid? And then also you can kind of see in our hatchling enclosures, we've got 7 in each enclosure, so they do well breathing together as groups.
So you were telling me earlier that when you first got them, that's like when they're first out of the egg, you put them on newspaper.
Right.
Which some people may not agree with, but it's actually for a very good reason. So do you mind sharing this?
It's the biggest reason is it's easier to keep clean, and then when they're eating, they're going to be eating off of a tray or off of the ground, and we don't want them to ingest any of the substrate material because that would make it really hard for them to be able to defecate. And we want everything to kind of run perfectly and smooth when they're hatchlings.
I do know some people who are private keepers who have like new baby snakes or just new snakes in their collection. We put them on newspapers to kind of keep track of like their bowel movements and their health.
Right.
So they can understand who's eating in what enclosure and like make sure that the animals are healthy.
Right.
Before they introduce them to the rest of the collection.
Yes, that's a little different for our guys here. These lizards like to defecate in the water. So in the wild, they'll defecate when they're hanging up in a branch, and it goes into the river, and it just goes away. And that helps them to kind of protect themselves, so that other predators don't smell them. They can't smell their fecal matter. And then in here also, they have a big water bowl, and they defecate in it. So we don't use it for that reason, but it is a good reason for the snakes and stuff. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for telling us about the Caiman lizard, which is, again, a lizard I love so much. And she just is climbing back there.
She's off camera now. She's done.
Well, again, thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you for coming to visit.
Oh, no problem. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. Don't forget to leave a big thumbs up down below, subscribe to my channel, and also check out my Instagram @ColeShirk. As always, I'll see you next week.